Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. I'm your host, Tom, and I want to thank you for hitting that download button. Now, if you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And while you're there, leave us some kind words and put out some of that 5-star loving, okay? We'd really appreciate that. And I promise I'll call you in the morning. Now, if you have any ideas or suggestions of what you want to hear about, or maybe a topic, a discussion about the board games, now you can contact us through our website. It's www.themegameeple.com, and go to our social media page. All the links to our pages like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You know all the ones. Okay, it can be found there at our social media page. And now you can also hear the podcast on our YouTube channel, as well as some unboxing videos, as boring as they are, but evidently unboxing videos is a thing, so I do them, and you can also see some reviews of games and gaming accessories, and the link to that is also on our social media page on the website. Alright, welcome back to the Mega Meeple. This is episode 6. And I think I got about 4 more left to get into those double digits. I read somewhere on a podcast blog that usually if someone's going to stop doing podcasts, they usually stop within the first 10. Once they get past episode 10, they've gotten into the schedule and so forth and the work load involved of doing a podcast, especially on my schedule. It's a weekly podcast, so usually if it's sort of like the trying period. So as if people are not able to make it to that 10, they've usually by that point have already found that the workload and all the work of putting a podcast together, editing it, getting it uploaded and stuff like that, it's just not for them. But like I said in my introductory podcast, I'm retired, I'm bored, I got a lot of time on my hands, and I like gaming. And just this is something that I fully intend to go past the 10th episode and even far beyond that. Because I enjoy doing this, I enjoy talking about it, I enjoy gaming, and that's what's better than doing something that you enjoy doing. Trust me, if I didn't enjoy doing this, I would not be doing it at all. You wouldn't be hearing from me in the slightest bit. So what did we play this week? Let's see. You ever play a game that just seems too easy? And at some point you got to ask yourself, okay, what are we doing wrong here? And you usually have to go right back to the rule book, reread it, try to figure out what you're doing wrong, because this game seems too easy. I mean, this can't be this easy. And the game I'm talking about this past week that me and a few friends played was Cthulhu Pandemic. Now, full disclosure, I have never played any of the Pandemic games, but I have played Cthulhu Pandemic, and my friend who owns it says that this is his favorite version of Pandemic, of all the iterations of it. But that kind of threw us off because, we were just killing that game. I mean, we were sealing the gates and everything. We were getting all around and killing the creatures and killing the cultists and getting rid of them and moving around and trading cards and getting over to the other area and sealing that gate and it's like, okay, what do we miss? This is too easy, okay? And not only is it Pandemic, it's Cthulhu Pandemic. What Cthulhu game is easy? So we dug a little bit deeper in the rule book, and after we finished playing, and we found out that there was actually one little nugget of the mechanics that we were overlooking. And it was actually one of the mechanics or actions that would have made the game easier. So we kind of laughed. It was like, we were actually making it hard on ourselves by neglecting this one little mechanic, and we still beat the game. We didn't just beat it, we killed it. One humorous thing that happened this past week is I got a message from one of the designers or creators of a Kickstarter that I was backing. And usually, if I get any messages at all, it's usually one of these automated ones where it says, thank you for backing our project, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But this one was directly, I guess, from one of the creators. And he basically said, thank you for backing up our game. And we see that you have quite a bit of experience backing board games. So if you have any advice or pointers you could give us, we'd appreciate it. With a little smiley face on it. And so I thought, I messaged him back and told him, what I do. And they said, great. Well, if you need someone to come on your podcast, let us know. So I was like, yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I am looking for people to come on the podcast. And so we'll see what comes of that. I'm working on that. And another thing I'm working on is interviewing one of the managers of a local game store here in the area. I know that a lot of people they like to go onto Cool Stuff Inc. or other miniature market and stuff like that and buy their stuff online. But if you have a local friendly game store in your area, you really need to support them and the work that they do, because chances are they have an area where people could come in and play games. And a lot of times people come in and play games, they don't buy anything there. It's just there to, have events, get together with friends and play. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really important that you support your local friendly game store and everything that they do, because if business dries out and they have to close down. Now, if you ever had like a role-playing group playing a game, you know how hard it is to get together, and everybody's schedules is clear on that day to get together and play. Yeah, it's real important to support your local game store. So one of the things I'm working on is being able to interview the manager of a local store here and just give us some inside information of what it takes to run a game store and all the challenges and logistics and difficulties and stuff like that, and just the hard work that these people do to provide a place to be able to go and meet with friends and game. So if you go to an event or something like that, make sure to buy just something, even if it's just a thing of dice. Because you can never have too many dice, right? Now, one of the things that was really cool this past week was I did my very first GM session. And I got one of the books from Fantasy Flight Games, The End of the World. I got the Wrath of the Gods book, and that one's pretty cool. The reason why I chose that as my first GM experience was, number one, it's really simple. You have, positive dice, negative dice. There's not a whole lot of math. The characters are actually playing themselves. So I didn't have to worry about all the stats. I didn't have to worry about all the spells for the wizards or whatever. I didn't have to worry about all the weapons and stuff like that for the fighter. You just played yourself, and whatever equipment you had on you at the time you were sitting down at the gaming table, that's what you had with you to survive the end of the world. And I just wanted to, kind of dip my toes into the GM pool and see how fine the water was. Now let me set the picture for you. There were 6 people sitting at the gaming table. Everyone at that gaming table had years and years of GMing experience on different systems. We had two people that were GMs for Pathfinder. We had a GM for Savage Worlds. We had one guy who was a GM on a variety of different systems: Pathfinder, BattleTech, and D&D. And it's funny because he's often said, "Yeah, I played. I was GMs, blah blah blah, for a D&D session," and everybody's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool." And then he adds version 3 of D&D. And that's when people go, "Oh, okay, yeah." So I don't have a lot of experience in RPGs, but evidently version 3 of D&D is not smiled upon among the RPGers, or the GMs at least. So everybody at that table, and we even had one person that had done a GM for Savage Worlds and Cthulhu. So there were people there that had years and years of GM experience, except for me. I've never GM'd. I've only played the characters, and I've only played like 2 characters. The one character of the Pathfinder campaign that we just finished a few weeks ago, and then I played a character in a Savage World. And unfortunately, that particular campaign kind of fell apart because people's different schedules and work responsibilities and so forth. So I don't know if we'll ever pick up that campaign again. But that's all I've ever played is PCs. So some people may think, well, Tom, why don't you GM with a group of people who never GM'd before, or that don't know anything about RPGs or something like that, and you could be like the one person there that knows more than them. And it's like, no. If I was going to be doing a GM, I wanted to be surrounded by people who've been doing it a long time. And that's something that I have held true to in my life, to everything that I've done and accomplished, is I seek out people who are better than me, who are actually doing the things that I want to do. And I approach those people. I seek those people out. I want to pick their brain and find out, okay, what did you do to get to the point where you are now? Because I want to be there too someday. And that's one thing I've learned early in my adult life, is that no matter how good you are or how experienced you are, there's always someone who knows more. There's always someone who has more experience than you, and there's always someone that you can learn from their experience, their mistakes, what they learned from it, what they did to make things easier for them, things that were helpful for them, that could help you. And some may think, all those people were your friends, Tom. They're just of course they're going to tell you did well. Well, you don't know my friends. We call each other out on our BS all the time. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for feedback. And by feedback, I mean constructive criticism. That's what feedback is. It's criticism, but it's constructive. It's like, okay, this is good, you did this well. My suggestion for this is you might want to try this. Or what I found helpful when I was in that situation is this, And I also wanted to be surrounded by GMs that knew what it was like when they first started out as a GM. Because everybody starts somewhere. Everybody's a beginner at some time. So it was a very fun experience. Everybody had fun. They certainly were able to empathize with the person just GMing for the first time. So a lot of them was sharing some war stories of the very first time they GM'd, or not necessarily the first time, but they talked about their worst GM experience, or the worst group that they ever GM'd for. And we had a big laugh about it. It became a joke. It became a really good, fun time, reflecting back on what they've been through and what they learned through the experience. Just the insight that they had of all those years that they passed on to me to say, okay, well, one thing that would help you make it easier for you, or one thing that will really help you on this particular aspect is, and they would give the suggestion or the encouragement. So that's what's for constructive criticism. You don't criticize someone without giving them a solution to the problem. So I tell that story all to just tell you this. This is a life lesson for you, and pretty much everything that you do. And that is, don't wait until you're ready to do something. That's why I'm not into the whole New Year's resolution crap. Because if something's important enough to me, I'm going to start today doing it. So if you wait until you're ready, like this podcast, if I waited until I had the perfect format or the perfect structure to the podcast, I'd never start podcasting. Start doing it now, and I'm learning as I go along. Now, that's not to say that if you don't know how to do something, you just flat out go out and do it. You might fail right off the bat, and you may fail really, really bad and never want to do it again. There is something to say about research and planning. I mean, I planned and researched the whole podcast and gamings and all the technical stuff, I'd say for maybe like a good year before I finally took the plunge and started the podcast. But you don't want to get stuck in research either, where it's like, well, I just don't know enough. I need to know more. Well, guess what? You'll find out and you'll learn more by actually stepping out and actually doing it. Most of the stuff I've ever learned in life is by actually doing it. I've got the basic training and the basic preliminary knowledge through research and study, but there came a time where I had to pull that trigger and actually step out and do the thing. So don't let a lack of knowledge keep you back from doing what you want to do. Yes, there's research involved, but learn what you need to know to start it, and then and actually start it. And then you'll find that as you get more into the rhythm of doing things, and you learn more suggestions and tricks and hints and tips and everything. As I'm doing these podcasts, I'm listening and reading other podcasts and how-tos and stuff like that, so I could learn how to do this better. So basically, I say all that to say, don't sit on your butts just wishing to do something. Get up, find out what you need to do to start, and then start. I don't think I've ever, if I have, I think it's just in passing. I've had a Patreon page for quite a while. I think I set it up at the same time I set up the website. But I really don't push it that much, mainly because I have all the equipment that I need to do the podcast and make it sound and look good. And I'm now just learning how to use that stuff. I'm learning how to edit. I'm learning all about the audio files and stuff like that. When I put together the YouTube videos, I'm learning how to use the video and audio editing software. I don't know every single thing about gaming. I know board games, but I don't know much about RPGs. That's why me GM my very first RPG this past week was so daunting. So if you go to our social media page on the website, www.themegameeple, just go to the social media page, and there's a link there for the Patreon page. And one of the goals that I have for the podcast is once I get 15 Patreons, I'm going to see about bringing on a co-host. Even if those 50 patrons just, pledge like $1 a month, that'll be enough for me to bring on someone as a co-host, and it will be somebody who has more experience and knowledge about some other aspect of gaming. I know a lot of RPG friends. Like I just said a few seconds ago, I know a lot of GMs. So, I could bring on one of them as a co-host, and I could talk about board games, and they could talk about RPGs. And this could be a more well-rounded well-informed, and more entertaining podcast. So yeah, if you have like $1 a month that you have laying around, that you could go to my Patreon page and just pledge like $1 a month. If I get 50 people to do that, then that will be enough money for me to bring someone over, and we could to my place, and we could record a podcast, and pretty much from that, $50 a month, that'll help reimburse some of the gas, and that will pay for me buying them pizza or something like that, some kind of compensation for their time. And for a podcast that comes out on a weekly basis, you're getting 4 podcasts per month. So I think that's a good number, and that gives you guys some ownership and investment on the podcast, and helps contribute to making this podcast better. All right, that's enough for the soapbox for this episode. So let's go on to my guest this week. So without any further delay, let's go on to our interview with Daniel Blakeney of Amber Palace Games and talk about the Kickstarter game Scream or Die. All right, welcome back to the Mega Meeple. This time we have, and I mentioned briefly in the last episode, a new game just came to Kickstarter this past week called Scream or Die by Amber Palace Games. And we have, today, we have one of the developers of that game, Dan Blakeney. Hi, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself, Thomas? Thanks for having me on.
Doing good. Thank you so much for coming on. And yes, I think we connected on a Facebook group for board game reviewers, and you were kind enough to send me a prototype version of Scream or Die, which we've been loving. We had both varied ages play it, and it's just being liked and loved by everybody. So I want to talk about that.
That's great to hear.
Yes, and now. You developed the game along with Dennis Sawyers?
Yes.
Okay. And then the game itself is designed by Anthony Tejada, right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, great. Well, for those of people in the audience that haven't heard of Amber Palace Games, just tell us a little bit of the background of it, how you guys got together, how it formed, that type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, Amber Palace Games formed 3 years ago. We all graduated from college and tried to make our way in the world of careers, and things just didn't really click with us. We weren't really finding any good business opportunities. We've all played games our entire lives and decided, you know what? Let's take a shot at making our own. So we got a couple ideas together. Scream or Die is actually our 5th or 6th attempt at a game. We've failed a lot more than we've succeeded. But we all went to grade school together. We've grown up together, and we decided, let's go into business together. So here we are a couple years later, and Kickstarter has been wonderful.
Yes, and that sounds cool, especially when you're doing something that you love with people that you, for the most part, get along with, So.
For the most part.
But, I understand now. Now, Scream or Die is not your first time with the Kickstarter. You had another game called Heir to the Throne that was successfully funded. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And I understand, now, are you guys releasing it or demoing it at Origins this year?
We are. We funded Heir to the Throne last April, and there was a lot of custom artwork needed, so the development and release of it took a lot longer than we had expected. We were hoping to have it to our backers before Origins. Looks like that's not quite going to happen, but we will have a copy at Origins that we will be playing with people. We're in the event book, and we'll be there all week. And then after that, we'll be selling it from our website and getting it out to people as quickly as we can.
Excellent. All right. So now we come to Scream or Die, which is it's a family game, but I hesitate to use the word cute because some people think, oh, it's cute, oh, it's a kiddie game. No, it's not. It's not for toddlers, but it's from me playing it and the group of people I played it with. It's definitely a family-oriented game that you can play with your family and play with your kids, and it's not like there are other like Halloween themed games that I certainly will not bring up because the neighbors alone gives the kids a nightmare. I mean, they get me nightmares sometimes, but this one is really cute because the classic. First of all, it's the classic monsters from yesteryear, the things that we grew up with, and just the fact that it's that appeals to the adults, just kind of that sort of nostalgia aspect. And then I think one of the main things that appeals to the kids is that the monsters are children now, right?
Yes, you actually touch on a pretty important point there with the fact that when you're making a game that you have more of a family orient, even when you're doing something that is, scary based like monsters, you still want the kids to feel safe in it. And I know that you hesitate to call it cute, but look at the artwork. It's pretty cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very conscious decision. There's other games out there that, they emphasize, the brains and the guns and a little bit more violence to it. We wanted to go in a different direction. We love those games. They're really fun games.
Oh, yeah.
But by the same token, we wanted something a little bit different. The classic monsters, everyone likes Halloween.
Right, definitely. I know it's one of my favorite holidays of the year, next to I guess Christmas. But yeah, I'm beginning to like Halloween more than all the other ones, just because it's not as I know it just appeals to me more. I'm dark.
Well, it's not a fussy holiday. It's a good holiday to express yourself.
That's right. So now what were there any things that you experienced in the previous Kickstarter that help you learn or implement in the Scream or Die Kickstarter?
Well, we've quickly discovered that each Kickstarter is entirely its own beast. One of the things that we learned in the differences between the Air Kickstarter and the Scream or Die Kickstarter is all the things that we didn't know we had to get in order ahead of time. With this being our second time around, having manufacturers that we already had a rapport with and that we already had on email lists, not having to go out and do outsourcing for shipping, having this distribution lined up, having all of those things ready ahead of time meant that we got to take a little bit of a deep breath and look more into, okay, how are we actually going to run this campaign? Heir to the Throne we're very fortunate that it funded, but we didn't have any reviews for it. We completely forgot to send out review copies. We made a lot of mistakes. We hope that we'll make different mistakes this time.
Right, definitely. So, so it seems like now Scream and Die came out on Kickstarter this past week, and just for way of updating, if people are listening to this episode like months down the road, it is June 9th?
June 9th, I think.
Yeah, 2017. So if it's June 9th, 2018, you're too late. You'll have to go to the website and order directly from Amber Palace Games. So let's get down right to the game and the gameplay. How does that all work?
So the players choose a classic monster at the beginning of the game, and that is their character for that game. The only other major components in the game are small tokens called screen tokens and 15 dice of various colors and proportions. And basically what it is each monster has different dice that benefit them differently. And it's a game of probability and odds and sort of pushing your luck. There's no way to really be punished for pushing your luck, so we hesitate to call it a push your luck game. But there is definitely some risk reward, and we tried to make all of the information extremely transparent, make it to where any player of any age could figure out, oh yeah, I need blue dice. There's blue dice. That helps me. Mm-hmm. And having those kind of connections, just very obvious, we feel helps people get into the game easier. The victory condition is to get 13 pieces of candy, which are basically just victory points. And we were going back and forth between 13 and 15 as we were playing the game, and someone said, it's Halloween, why not do 13? It's a good unlucky number.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's how, so there was nothing magic about it. It was mildly arbitrary, but it fits the theme of the game. And one thing that Amber Palace Games really tries to emphasize is our thematic games.
Yes, definitely. I know we really enjoyed playing it, and again, one of the things that I think I'm going back to the family and playing with the children and playing with your kids and stuff like that, and including them. I think one of the things that would really hook, particularly the kids in, especially when you're talking, the age recommendation is 8 and up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're talking to kids that young, I mean, they're, especially if you have a kid. I mean, it seems like kids are getting iPhones or smartphones younger and younger. So if they have a pad or something like that, they could get really easily distracted if they're not actively participating in the game. And so the fact that you have a mechanic that the person who is in charge of the bag, the roller of the dice, they're actively participating in fishing the dice out, rolling the dice, re-rolling any dice that the people pay the screens to re-roll. And they really need to be able to pay attention. It's like, okay, don't stay with us. It's your turn to do the bag next time. So stay focused. So,
right.
And also just
exactly.
And also just the thing of the aspect of re-rolling a die or paying screens to re-roll a die, sort of like that take that aspect. It's like, okay, well, roll a die that Vlad gets 3 candy. Well, I want to re-roll that one because I'm playing Seth, and so what little brother doesn't want to take that with it's like a sibling or
exactly.
Like
or what kid isn't going to want to tell their dad to re-roll all their good dice.
Right.
And that is actually a very important part of the game. Also is as you get older, you have more of an attention span. But really, with the age of screens and the age of smartphones, I admit there are times that even when I'm playing a game I like, that occasionally I'll glance at my phone. With Scream or Die, you have to always be watching what's happening because every turn you can do something. It's not like the classic games I grew up on where it's, okay, you take your turn, and then 3 minutes later it gets around to where I can do something.
Right. Now, did you happen to play these games with children before we came out with the final design?
We did. We're based out of Detroit, Michigan, and there is one of the proto-spiels is out over in Chelsea. And we took an earlier version of the game over there, and it was I want to say it was a little heavier at the time. And we got some advice that, it looks like it would be a really good game, for families and kids. So then we brought it back this way, and we talked to some of our friends who had kids, and we took it to like family reunions and had people who weren't necessarily gamers play it, and they loved it immediately. We're like, oh yeah, this is where we need it to be.
That's good. That's good. Well, it certainly shows in the final product because it's a lot of fun. So that the times that the time period that I've had it playing with people, it really didn't matter what age they were or whether they were gamers or not. They thought, oh, this, and they all said pretty much the same thing. Yeah, this is a really cute game. Yeah. So.
Well, good. I'm glad that it's been such a hit in your game groups.
Yes, it is. And thank you so much for coming on. Now, if people want to take part in the Kickstarter, or if they're listening to this and you missed the Kickstarter, how can they order the game? If
the Kickstarter has completed successfully and we are going to be shipping the game, the easiest way for them to get a hold of it is to follow us, is to email us or contact us directly through our website. We're in the process of finalizing our store, and we're hoping to have the game in our hands in early October. We're really pushing hard for a Halloween release date. But yeah, if we fund, then you should be able to order it directly from us, and we will get it to you as quickly as we can.
Okay. And again, if you go to the Kickstarter, it's listing as one of the new games on Kickstarter right now. So go ahead, and it's only. Hold on, let me double check here. Yeah, it's only $19 to fund. How many cups of coffee is that at Starbucks? So that it's not like it's a few $100 games, but it's really it's a nice game, it's a cute game, and it's a price that I think most everybody could afford. So I don't think the price would put many people off. So there's not much excuse not to back this thing. So if you're hearing this interview, go to Kickstarter, back it up, and then again, if Kickstarter is closed and you're listening to this, and now what's the website for Amber Palace Games?
The website is just www.amberpalacegames.com.
Okay. Yeah, just go ahead and go to that website and take a look, and also take a look there. Heir to the Throne game, because that's pretty neat too. They got some neat dynamics with that, but I think that's for another interview. But thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on and tell us about Scream or Die, the family-friendly Halloween game of classic monsters as children go and act trying to collect 13 pieces of candy. So it's pretty neat. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for talking to me, Thomas.
All right. Well, take care and have a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Well, that's it for this episode. I want to thank Daniel for agreeing to come on and talk about his game, and also for sending me a prototype version of the game for me to review. And also, you could see a video preview of that game on our YouTube channel. Again, the link to that is on our social media page on the website. So until then, thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for downloading. Appreciate it very much. I see the numbers out there and they're looking good. So until next time, this is Tom saying, game on.